Here we're going to graph this inequality. Our first step is to draw our horizontal asymptote. So if we look at this chart to remind ourselves, the horizontal asymptote is determined by looking at the highest degree in our numerator. So in this case, it is 2. We're going to call that n. In our denominator, in this case, it's 1. We're going to call that m. So since n is greater than m, we can look at the chart and see that means that there is no horizontal asymptote for this inequality. So now let's move on and look at our vertical asymptotes. So to determine this, we need to remember that for a fraction, the denominator can never equal 0. So x minus 3 can't be 0. So if we solve that by adding 3 to both sides, we see that x cannot equal 3. Now I can draw a vertical asymptote there at the line x equals 3. I'm just going to make a little dashed line, and none of the solutions to this inequality are on this vertical asymptote. Now we're going to factor it and see if anything cancels out so we can have our inequality to actually graph. So we have our y less than or equal to. Our denominator, x minus 3, we can't factor that anymore, but our numerator we can. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us this last number and add to give us the middle number. If we go through the different options, we see it's -3 and +2. Now we look at it to see if anything can cancel out. If there's something in our numerator that's also in our denominator. And notice there's an x minus 3 divided by x minus 3. That's 1. So our inequality that we're going to graph is x or y is less than or equal to x plus 2. So this line represents our border line, and we're going to use the slope-intercept form to graph it. Remember, the number added at the end is our y-intercept. So we're going to put a dot there at 2 for our y-intercept. The number in front of the x is the slope. So that's 1 or 1 over 1. So from this y-intercept, we go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, or down 1 to the left 1. So now we need to ask ourselves, is this going to be a solid line or a dashed line? And since it is less than or equal to, we're going to draw a solid line there. The last step is to determine whether we're going to shade above or below this orange line. And so what you do is you pick a test point. I'm going to pick 0, 0, and I'm going to substitute that into my inequality. After you substitute it in, you just simplify. You get 0 is less than -6 over -3, which is 0 is less than or equal to 2. Is 0 less than or equal to 2? Yes. That means that 0, 0 is one of the many solutions to this inequality. So we need to make sure that we shade below the orange line so that 0, 0 is one of the solutions. So what I'm going to do is just shade here and shade here. And we still have that red dashed line. Remember, that red dashed line that's below our orange line represents our vertical asymptote. So all of our solutions are below the orange line, but there are no solutions when x equals 3. There's no solutions on that red dashed line.